it's also interesting. It's really fascinating that that's your perspective. You know what I mean? And then I have such a completely different perspective. And it's like how it's so fascinating how we coexist with two different perspectives.
Such different realities,
right?
right?
And it's like, that's a big deal to like have awareness to, because my reality is very real. My perspective is very real. So is yours. And where a lot of times people get into trouble is when like, which like I'm like struggling right now with my feels to be like, actually your reality is wrong and my reality is right. And you need to see it my way. And like, it's so hard to navigate advocating for yourself and bypassing somebody else's experience. And so I'm in my feels and I'm trying to like figure out how I can articulate my experience without bypassing you. And it's hard. It's hard. It's like, I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to get it wrong because this is a sloppy practice for me. And it's like, I'm going to do my best. And no, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but I'm practicing here with the tools that I have at this moment.
Let's do it.
So I'm open to keeping this conversation going and hearing your perspective.
Let's practice it.
Okay. See if I can do it without being, see if I can just keep myself space here. So there's like,
just growl.
it did it. Like, there's another part too. It's like where I want to get into story. And I'm like, I just need to speak to what we just talked about. I want to get into story of like this and this and this and this, but I'm just going to stay here and not get into story. Because that's another time that you can tell when you start to really get into story.
Right. Got to explain away everything so then they understand where you're coming from.
My perspective in a short frame, we'll see if I can do it short-winded. My perspective is I don't say anything about doing the laundry, about scrubbing, about doing all the stuff, all the cleaning until you throw something at me with it. I'm like, you know, there's frustration, and it's not always a verbal. It's if you're slamming, doing something, or with the passive, like there's times there's a load of laundry on the bed. And what you'll do is you'll go through and pick out your stuff and hang them up and leave everything else and be like, well, I don't know how you like it. Or, hey, will you clean this up when things are getting out of control because I don't have the energy for it, and it piles up. So the narrative is it doesn't get done unless I do it. And then you're like, hey, will you clean this? And the last time you asked me to clean the stuff off the bathroom counter, I was like, you know what? If you see something that needs to be done, you are more than capable to do it yourself. And so it's interesting because mine is, I just take that. I don't mind. I mind when I get in trouble. It feels like a child and a parent. I get in trouble when my chores aren't done and you get mad and you're slamming stuff.
Okay.
I take that offensively. I take it offensively when you are like, I'm not going to do shit for the rest of your clothes, but I'll take mine out. I take that offensively. Or when you're like, hey, clean this up, right? My perspective. Then I get very like, are you kidding me? And then I come at you. So your perspective is I'm bitching at you all the time for not doing this. And my perspective is very different. So it's confusing. And it's like, again, I'm trying not to be in my feels because my feelings are a little bit hurt by that because my perspective is so strong. And I'm presuming that your perspective is equally as strong. So your feelings might be hurt right now thinking, wow, you think you don't say anything unless, do you not even realize how you talk to me or something? Like, I don't know, but I know you're not an ass. So, I mean, sometimes I think you are.
I am sometimes.
I know you're not an ass. And my perspective, like for you to not see it that way, kind of paints you in a picture that maybe, you know, so I know that there's another angle. I know that there's another perspective. There's truth to yours and there's truth to mine. And somewhere in the middle, we have what's really going on.
See, I don't even think that somewhere in the, first off, thank you. Before I spiral, I understand that expressing like we might just be talking about folding clothes and doing dishes and scrubbing toilets and stuff right now, but it's connected to so many different things.
Yeah.
Because what you just said was you brought up feeling like you were getting in trouble for chores, right?
Yeah.
And so suddenly you're in a activated state that you used to get in as a child, and it's being activated and triggered by shit that we're experiencing as adults right now in our relationship. And I think the same can be said, like I said earlier, where I don't have total clarity over all the ways that this is connected to my childhood, but I can tell that it is.
Yeah.
I can tell that there's, when you get upset with me about not helping with something, or when you get upset with me, I guess is just an easy way to put it too, right? Because you get upset with me for other things too. When you get upset with me, I immediately feel like a child. I immediately feel like I'm in trouble. And the only way, I mean, the ways that I used to handle getting, like if I was in trouble as a kid, I had a couple of different ways of dealing with it.
Yeah.
And the first one usually was like, I'm trying to think maybe, I don't know. See, sometimes we're on this podcast of ours, live healing shit.
Right.
Because I'm sitting here processing this right now, trying to figure out exactly what I would do. When I was a kid and I would get in trouble, my go-to was to hide. Like I would try to avoid the situation as much as possible, whether I knew I was going to be in trouble or suddenly it was like, oh, there's trouble. I'm like, I got to fucking get out of here. Like my first response, I think, is flee, right? I'm trying to figure out a way to get out of this. And sometimes that flee looks like, because I can recognize that I do this now in our relationship too, where I'll ignore you, right? And that isn't me, like that's the silent treatment. That's me basically ignoring what you're expressing and communicating because I'm activated and scared. And that's my way of like trying to flee a situation when I can't actually leave a situation. So maybe that's dissociation, maybe that's whatever the case may be, right? But I can see how that comes across to really, really shitty. And if those things don't work, or depending upon the circumstances, then I go to fight. Then I go to defend. Then I'll go to blame everything else. You know, don't you see that I'm mowing the lawn? I can't believe you don't see that I'm mowing the lawn every single day. And it's funny that we're talking about this because, again, this isn't like a super critical part of our relationship, I think. But at the same time, this is something that, what's cool about it is I think we are fleshing out and recognizing how this, like I said, this not super critical part of our relationship, however, very much is connected to childhood, very much connected to wounds that we both have in some way about things that we need to understand more. I want to understand them more.
And how often have we said, like, you keep fighting about the dishes? It's not about the dishes.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Case in point.
Exactly.
Like, it's not about the dishes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's hysterical,
it's historical. Hey, how does this fit in with if it's on your path, it's for your path?
It's exactly.
Right?
It fits in perfectly for it.
Give
right?
an example.
Because
I'm like seeing it. Like, here it is. It keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. You were saying that you like to like keep showing me till I can get it and learn. And at first, because like I also have the avoidant thing, I'm like, I don't want to keep being shown. I just want to get it right the first time and be able to be done with it. Okay, I messed up again. Let's just get it right. I don't want to keep having to learn it. And you're like, yeah, keep showing me, because I want to get it. And so I see that now. It keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. It keeps coming up in different ways. It's been coming up as one perspective for me, and it's been coming up as one perspective for you. And so here we are. And now, through the magical healing of the podcast, we get to have this come in a real life conversation.
Yeah.
Like coming up, it's like, oh, we're seeing this. I'm seeing it from your point of view now. And you're seeing it from my point of view, or at least I think you are.
We were meant to be.